Hello, hello, Lungala Rubadiri here, aka Lunga, with another story for you. And this time, this is a little different because the story I'm going to tell is actually in response to some questions that I'm being asked by you great guys who are watching my videos. Thank you so much. All the comments, all the questions I'm getting, especially by email at laughwithlunga@gmail.com. So, in response to the question, what kind of culture clash did I go through when I came here? Okay, so culture clash. When I came here, I had moved from Nairobi, Kenya to Los Angeles, California. In fact, the first person I stayed with was my brother, and I had a sister nearby and some other relatives, cousins. So I really felt at home, but I was very lonely. Definitely missed homesick for Nairobi. Missed my other members of my family in Africa, my friends, my girlfriend. So I would write letters every day or every other day. And there was a post office about half a mile from my brother's house. So I'd walk down the street to post my mail. And in the post office, there were always lots of people. But I kept, people were so friendly. Everyone's hi, 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 hi. You thought you would go on with the conversation beyond hi, but it was really just hi, how are you doing? Have a good day and move on. But I remember so many times being told, excuse me. And I'm thinking, excuse you what? Why aren't they asking me what do you want to know what time it is? Excuse you what? And I realized, well, I didn't realize, I was told after a couple of days of going to the post office by a lady behind me in line. She says, hey, excuse me. And I looked towards, she says, are you from another country? And I said, yes, how did you know? And she says, the person in front of you keeps saying, excuse me, because as the line goes forward, you're going too close to him. And I was like, really? Huh. Lining up in Nairobi, if you left too much space between yourself and the person ahead of you, someone would sneak in. So I said, oh, I'm just used to lining up close. She said, no, no, no. Look at the entire line of, 10 people. There's at least 2 or 3 feet between each person. So I was like, wow, okay, welcome to social distance 101. Hello, now I know. No more need for the excuse me. But after the post office, I often, on my way back to my brother's house, passed through the bank, and now there was a teller there. I'd gotten to know a guy called Gary, so we chat a little bit, and I always sat down and read, through the newspaper, threw it on the table, and headed out. And he'd say, "Oh, no, 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 no! Take the paper with you." So after a while, I was like, you know what, Gary? It's not like I just come here for the paper. Can I pay you guys for this paper I keep walking away with? He said, no, no, no. He's like, don't you know where to buy the newspaper? I said, no, actually, where do you buy a newspaper? I don't see, the guy at the street corner or riding around on a bicycle selling newspapers. So I said, no, no, no. Here we have the newspaper stand outside the bank. There's one. Or you can go to the liquor store and just buy it there. So I said, there's a newspaper stand out here? I've never seen anyone there. He said, no, no, no. There's no one there. You just buy the newspaper. There's no one guarding it. And I'm thinking, really? So I says, yeah, let me take you outside and show you what to do. So he takes me and, to see the newspaper stands. There are about 4 of them. LA Times, New York, whatever, and local other newspapers. But I said, okay, I want the LA Times. So he says, get your quarter, your 25 cents, and put it in the slot, which I did, and I expected the paper to come out. He says, no, just open this bin and take out the paper you want. And I said, really? There's like 25 papers in here, and I'm supposed to just take the one and close this thing? I mean, I could reach for all the. He's looking at me like, excuse me, why would you take all of them when they all say the same thing? So I just said, okay, I'm just going through this moment of realization. There are many places I've stayed where this system would not work. Someone would come early in the morning, pay the quarter, take all the newspapers out, and be selling them at some other street corner at a profit. So anyway, he's like, okay, I get. Okay. Anyway, I learned from that experience something that followed me through the years. Even every time I went to buy a newspaper, sometimes I'll just watch others. Oh yeah, he took one, she took one. Okay, I guess this is working. And I got used to that. That's how you bought newspapers, the newspaper stand. You get one paper for the 25, cents. Then, a couple of years later, comes 9/11. And everybody was just, oh my gosh, this attack on this United States, my gosh, the Twin Towers are down, the attacks, and oh my gosh, we were all in shock, in fear. And I remember that day, a couple of my artist friends and myself thinking, should we go to, there was going to be a show in 4 days in San Francisco. Should we even bother to go all the way from Los Angeles, 6-hour drive to San Francisco? And, is anyone even going to come and buy anything? We're all so miserable and da, 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 da. But anyway, I jumped in, my van, and I went all the way to San Francisco. I was doing this art show. The mood was just really down. Everyone was really, really down. And I remember this gentleman coming to my booth, and he introduced himself as a retired naval officer. And he came to the booth and he looked at the art and said, "This is East African, right?" I said, yeah, actually Ugandan. The artist I work with is Ugandan. He says, "Oh, okay. Um, I recognize the art." I said, "Have you been there?" He said, "Yeah, when I was in the Navy, we were stationed out and had, visits to Mombasa and South Africa and Cape Town and so on. So I know a lot about Africa." So he looked at me in the eye and said, "Young man, how are you feeling right now?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "How are you feeling about being in this country?" And I said, "Why me?" And he said, "Well, I'm gathering from all the trips I've made to Africa and around the world. Wherever I go as a naval officer, people keep telling me that they're trying to come to the United States. So I'm thinking you as a young man probably came here with some kind of a goal." I said, "Yeah, to go to school and, whatever else, and then maybe move back at some point in my life." So he said, "Oh, okay, so, but how are you feeling now that we are under attack even here?" So I said, "Oh, I understand the gravity of your question. To tell the truth," and when I told him this, I had this flashback of that newspaper stand. The first time I ever understood that you put in the one quarter and took out the one newspaper. And I told this gentleman about that experience and how throughout the years I had been in the United States, to this day, I've seen the same thing go on and on and on. People put the one quarter in and take the one newspaper and close it and leave the rest for the others. So I said, "Sir, 9/11 happened, 11th, September 11th, okay? On the 12th of September, no newspaper could tell you enough. The news on TV could not tell you enough. Time magazine, no one could tell you enough about what had happened on the 11th of September. So on the 12th of September, I told him, I think I walked to the newspaper stand to buy the most valuable newspaper I had ever bought in the United States. And I found a line of people there. And everybody was having their turn to put in a quarter, take out the one newspaper, shut the bin, and leave for the next. In fact, I was worried they would run out of newspapers, but they kept stocking them up. And that just made me realize that even in the midst of this terrible time, people still held on to that value and that respect for the newspaper bin and the people that followed them. Everybody held on to that. And I told this man, if on that day some of these core values were still here and maintained, then there's hope. I told him, "You know what? I feel okay because the people who built this country are still here and they can rebuild those buildings. God rest in peace, and God bless the families of those who were lost in the Twin Towers and other places. But the people who are here today still have those values, and there's hope for this country." This naval fellow looked me in the eye and just collapsed into my arms, and he hugged me and he just cried and cried and he said, "Thank you for saying that. I hope you're going to stay in this country." And it was such an emotional moment. And I told him, "Yes, I will stay. I feel good. I'll stay for as long as I need to. do what I'm doing here, and I feel safe. I really do feel safe. And he said, okay, thank you. And anyway, we had the exchange. He left. And I've never forgotten that moment. But about a week later, when I was back in LA, I remember going to the grocery store, my local grocery store. And, I was picking up a few items, and a lady had passed, walking very fast down the aisle in a bui bui. I had not seen a lady in a bui bui since my days in Mombasa. The whole black outfit with just enough to see her eyes, and she was definitely holding something under her arms, but I couldn't even see what it was. And I thought, oh shoot, there's gonna be some something going down in here. And she was rushing through the aisles, and I just rushed towards the counter to pay for what I was getting, and I wanted to get out. There were about four cashiers, and lo and behold, she comes to the cash register that I am in line at, and she stands behind me, and I'm thinking, oh Lord, may this line move quickly before things go down in here. And the person in front of me had asked me something. I can't remember what it was, but I answered him, and she heard my accent, and immediately she says, "Ah, wewe ndugu yangu, unatoka Uganda ama Kenya? Unasema una accent kama unatoka mali yangu Kenya." So I said in as clear and as loud English as I could, because I'm like, oh shoot, she's talking to me. People will think I'm connected to her. Oh no, let me answer this in English. So I said, actually, I'm from Malawi. Where are you from, you say? Oh, mnatoka Mombasa kule pwani. Wewe ndugu yangu basi. And I'm like, well, I guess we're not really brother and sister, because I'm actually from Malawi, but yes, I've lived in Uganda and Kenya, so maybe my accent is throwing you off. No, umeishi hapa muda gani ba? I was like, oh, I've been here quite long, and utaishi utakaa hapa kwa sababu hii maneno mbaya sana siku hizi bwana. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I'm staying, and things have been rough, but I think I feel safe enough to stay in this country. So I kept answering in all very loud English, as clear as I could be, so that everyone watching us knew what she was saying in Swahili, and knew that I'm not connected, and I'm not trying to hide anything. But as the line moves forward, the cash register himself was watching the two of us in this exchange. And somehow some of her items slipped across the barrier into where mine was. And this middle-aged Caucasian gentleman looks me in the face and says, "Iyo kitu imeanguka. Iyo ni yako ama ni yake?" And I'm looking at this lily white Caucasian guy speaking better Swahili than, oh my gosh, my jaw was just dropped. The lady in the bui bui was also, and I was like, "Bwana, unasema Swahili?" And the lady in the bui bui is looking at me like, okay, now you're speaking Swahili? Seriously? But anyway, the cash register tells us, oh no, I used to teach in Tanzania. I used to teach in Moshi. Kwa hiyo, unaongea Swahili usafi kabisa. We were looking at him like, no ways, no ways. But anyway, this exchange went on. Everybody just loosened up. And now everyone's asking us, where are you guys from? How come you know Swahili? Oh, the cash register is like, oh, I taught there. This lady's talking about Kenya. I'm talking about, oh yeah, I lived in Kenya. All of a sudden, I'm no longer, so Malawian that I can't speak Swahili like she does. But anyway, we ended up going to the parking lot, the lady and I had to apologize to her. I said, Dada yangu, I'm so sorry, my sister, that I was just, and a week before that, I had been at this art show talking to this naval officer, and I told him that, we can all come together with this Harambe attitude. And yet here I am, refusing to attach to this lady just because she's in her bui bui, and missed out, by picking by appearance, who I'm going to participate with in getting this country back together. So I thought, my gosh, I do need to check myself. And it was very eye-opening. So I realized at that point, sometimes the culture clash is something we bring upon ourselves. Here I was becoming an obstacle to allowing my own sister to join with me here on a foreign land. Well, wake up, wake up. So yeah, that answers or should answer some of your questions. And thank you so much. Keep those questions coming. Keep watching. And God bless you guys. Take care. Stay safe.